Okay, so quick recap. The square root of negative 1 is the same thing as I. If I have something like the square root of negative 4, I can take an I out of that, and then it becomes a much more manageable square root. Square root of 4 is 2. And then we also just learned, remember, I squared is negative 1. Okay? So that's a powerful little rule right there. Yeah, I got a square root both sides of x squared, right? So I square root. And remember, if we rewrite this, this is actually x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 13. But we know that the square root of negative 13 is actually, plus or minus, take the I out, that little square root of negative 1, I times the square root of what's left underneath? 13, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all that I does is it takes the negative out of the square root for us. It kind of holds that place. Can we go to the next one?
Yep.
All right. Oh, go ahead, Christian. To solve this one, I'm going to solve it just like I would from last section. I'm just going to subtract 11, so I get 2x squared equals negative 37 minus 11. Is that negative 48?
That is it.
Okay. Divide both sides by 2. So x squared equals a negative
24.
Negative 24. Now, to get x by itself, I have to take the square root of both sides. Square root. Whoa. Square root. And then I end up with x equals plus or minus, remember we took the square root of a variable, the square root of negative 24. Now, let's work on simplifying that thing. First, are there any questions? So this is actually I times the square root of 24, plus or minus. Okay? Oh, kind of right at an angle here. Real quick, can we do anything with that 24?
Yeah, you can simplify.
Yeah, let's take a 2, 12, 2, 6, 2, 3, 3, 1. Circle my pairs. And so this is actually plus or minus I. Oops, I'm sorry.
Times 2.
Yeah, right. 2I, the square root of whatever's left underneath, square root of 6. Okay, so if we think about the number 3 plus 4I, that's got a real number and an imaginary number, right? So this has
Is it negative 2?
a real part, and this has an imaginary part. Imaginary.
Wow. Imaginary.
Okay? Standard form of a complex number would be something like, is A plus BI. Okay? And pops up on the quizzes. Write each in standard form. Well, I've got 8 minus I plus 5 plus 4I. I think that I can rewrite this as, let's see, if I'm just adding, I think I can rewrite this as 8 minus I plus 5I, plus 5, plus 4I. Without kind of changing anything, right? I'm just adding those two things together. So I want you to think about this as combining like terms. Okay? So terms that have an I in them are like terms. Terms that don't are just actual numbers. We can combine those. So what is 8 plus 5? 13. And what is minus 1I plus 4I?
3i?
Yeah, 3I. We can almost treat it like a variable a little bit. So plus 3I. In this case, it behaves like 1. So 13 plus 3I. So the next one, 7 minus 6I minus 3 minus 6I. I think we better change this. 7 minus 6I, let's see, minus 3. Whoa.
That's going to be...
Minus 3 plus 6I?
Yeah, they're going to cancel out.
And what do you notice about the 6i's?
They cancel out.
Right, plus 6i minus 6i, they're gone. What's 7 minus 3?
4.
4. So that's really just a fancy way to write the number 4.
Man, that's so dumb.
Wow.
Okay?
So really fancy.
This is actually 10 minus 6 minus 7i plus 4i. Remember, we treat the i's like they're kind of like terms. So 10 minus 6 is...
4.
Yeah, it's 4. Minus 7 plus 4. minus 3i, right?
Wait, I thought you had to distribute though.
Distribute the 4i.
Negative 24.
This is going to be 4i times negative 6
Negative
plus 4i times I. Okay? Simplify that a little bit. I think this is negative 24i
4i squared.
plus 4i, squared. Squared is the same as what? Negative 1. So this is negative 24i minus 4, right? Because I squared is the same as negative 1.
Oh yeah.
Is it in standard form, though? No. Got to write it in standard form. Negative 4 minus 24i. I got to have the real number first and the imaginary number next. Okay, so it's kind of picky, I understand, but it's the way it is.
Real number first.
Okay, here we go. I'm just going to FOIL. All right, we're going to treat 2i as kind of a term by itself, and then we're going to treat 7i as a term by itself also.
Your answer is negative 22 plus
Okay.
71i.
So, I'm going to take 9 times negative 4. Negative 36. Outside, 9 times 7i. Plus 63i. We're treating I just like a variable. Negative 2i times negative 4. I think that's plus 8i. And then last is negative 2 times 7 is minus 14i squared. I've got negative 36. I can't do anything with that. 63i plus 8i, I think is just 71. Yeah, 71i. And then we said negative 14 times I squared is the same as negative 14 times negative 1, which is actually plus 14. Michael, what was your question? 36 plus 14.
Negative 22.
Negative 22 plus 71i. Is that in standard form? Yeah, it is. Okay. The complex conjugate of something like 4 minus 2i would be 4 plus 2i, right? And this has to be true because remember that if I could rewrite this 4 minus 2i as 4 minus 2 times the square root of negative 1. That thing has to have a conjugate. Remember that I is actually a square root. Remember, why do I care? If I have that square root under the denominator, that's a problem. Yeah, so on the bottom I'm going to multiply by 1 plus 4i
Would that equal 7 plus I?
divided by 1 plus 4i. Remember we're multiplying, right? Okay. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm actually going to do that multiplication now. What is 1 times, I'm going to FOIL. What is 1 times 7? 7. What is 7 times 4i plus 28i?
Oh my god.
Whoa. What is, let's see, 5i times 1 plus 5i? And lastly, what is 5i times 4i plus 20i squared? Cool. Now let's do the bottom. First, on the bottom, 1 times 1? 1. What is 1 times 4i? That's the outside. Just 1 times 4i. 4i. What's 1 times negative 4i? Negative 4i. And then what is 4i times 4i? 16i squared. Bingo. Good. Now, let's simplify.
Oh my god.
On top, what is 28 plus 5i? 28i plus 5i.
33.
33i. Plus, now actually, 20i squared,
Negative 20.
yeah, is actually minus 20, right?
Yeah.
And on the bottom, I think the 4i's go away. And I get 1 minus 16i squared, but we know that that's actually what? Plus 16. Good. And one last simplification, I would be right there, equals, let's see, 7 minus 20 negative 13 plus 33i divided by 17. Your book says that this is not standard form. I don't care what your book says. This is good enough for me, okay? So this is your final answer.
You're not going to solve it?
I just did.